Hey guys, today I wanted to just do a little bit of an easier one. It's been a long day, and I just wanted to talk a little bit about my personal journey going from bronze to Grandmaster. Whereas in the last video I made about getting to GM, I went through my tips and tricks, what I felt like I improved in order to get there as a player. And since a lot of people are still going to be interested in that sort of thing, I'll just start out by repeating some of those things, which is that really I went through two periods of improving as a player. One when I first started playing and got placed into bronze, and then climbed from bronze to like a high plat or a low diamond back when emerald wasn't a thing. And I kind of got stuck there in plat and diamond for a long time. I think I learned the basic things that most anybody would learn when they're playing League, trying to climb through those basic ranks. So, you've got to learn what all of the abilities in the game are. You've got to learn what all the champions do. You've got to learn what all the items do, all the runes, etc. I mean, this is basic stuff. You're not going to learn much from that, right? At the end of the day, you actually just have to learn those things if you're a silver or bronze player and you don't know all of them. If you want to get to a high level, you have to know these things, and that's just the way that it is. What really kicked it into gear for me, if you're like a gold plus player and you're thinking about getting into some deeper, levels of understanding other than the basic stuff that everyone knows that you need to learn about the game, a big thing was ability interactions. And so you stop learning once you know what all of the abilities in the game do, but you don't continue learning and recognize that the way Braum E, for example, my main champion, interacts with so many other champions and their abilities is really maybe different than you would expect it to be. And it can have very special interactions and effects that would determine the way that you want to play and use your abilities and things like that. And so, learning those special ability interactions is like a secondary process of learning how abilities works, that you have to get into once you're no longer a silver player or whatever, and now that you know how all of the abilities, what all of the abilities in the game actually are, at least the prominent ones on like the most played champions or whatever. So for me, it was learning about how the abilities on my main champion really interact with the other champions and treating the game more like a fighting game where I'm holding my abilities, being patient, not playing League like it's Earth where you're spamming your abilities just to throw them, just to do a little bit of damage, but holding my abilities until I really have the opportunity to do something impactful with them, and using my abilities when I'm using them versus the best other ability I could use them versus. So in a team fight and in loading screen, I'm thinking to myself, what is the best ability in a team fight I could block using Braum? And I'm waiting in that team fight to use the ability that way rather than just throwing it out because I'm going to take a little bit of damage or because I want to go faster, because all these things are baits. A lot of abilities have little things that they give you, like a little bit of movement speed, or it'll give you this or it'll give you that. And if you're throwing your abilities for these little tiny things that don't really do anything and not saving them for these key moments against key abilities, you're going to miss the fact that, hey, I could have blocked Ornol, but, I couldn't have done anything because my E was on cooldown. Well, your E was on cooldown because you put it on cooldown, right? So it's things like that that really take you to the next level. And so when I was hard stuck and then thinking about how to improve, that was a big thing that I changed. The other thing, which I know, not a lot of people can fix this or do something about it, but ping makes a gigantic difference in this game. And, we'll go through it. I originally started out in Seattle when the server was in California, and I was playing on 20 ping. And then they moved the server from California to Chicago, and my ping went up to 60 plus. And then I moved out to college, and when I went to college, I ended up going to college in the Midwest, and I had 12 ping. And then I ended up moving to a city in the Midwest where we had fiber straight to Chicago, and I had 4 ping. And where I'm living now, I have about 13 ping as well. And so, my experience playing on all those different levels of ping, at different ranks, is that I can tell you that ping did make a huge difference in my climb. There's no denying that. And if you're serious about getting really good at the game, if you want to get masters, if you want to get grandmasters, if you want to get challenger, if you're serious about like playing the game professionally, for example, as I was, you definitely need to be playing the game in an area of the country where you can get good ping. It's just a huge competitive advantage. There's no way around it. And it's not just a competitive advantage. It's you will learn the game incorrectly if you're playing on 60 ping versus if you're playing on like 10 or 8 or less ping even. The reality is that, we were talking about those ability interactions, which was a huge part of what I think separates like a really good player from a bad player, or from like a decent player but not quite good enough, is ping determines some of those interactions, because sometimes it wouldn't be possible for you to consistently do certain things with your abilities that would be good on too high of a ping, or it's so hard to time a good Braumi versus a certain ability that you might not even attempt it. And so you might not even be practicing and getting good at doing that because you're on high ping. So you might not even approach the game the same way or your abilities the same way, because you're scared to waste your abilities because you don't have the ping to pull it off. And that's, it's really sad. It's, an overlooked, unspoken, unfortunate truth about competitive advantage in solo queue. And we know it because we see a lot of professional players are coming out of the Midwest nowadays, now that the server's in Chicago, instead of coming out of California like it used to be. So those would be my tips for, the other thing I did is I unlocked camera. Obviously, that was a big one. You can be a really good experienced player who knows how to make good decisions on the information that you have. And if you just aren't giving yourself enough information, you have no idea how much better your decision making can be if you're moving your camera around enough to make quality decisions. It's that simple. So to get on to what I wanted to talk about, which was my personal journey in ranked, I started out playing League of Legends. I first started at the tail end of Season 2. And I remember first seeing League of Legends when my Korean friend of mine at school showed me the Season 2 World Championship. And I watched the Taipei Assassins play against Azubu Frost. And I asked my friend if flying champions were OP or could move faster or had some sort of advantage because they kept picking Kayle and Nivea or something like that. This was my level of understanding of the game. I was a Call of Duty player, console player, through and through my entire childhood. I'd never played a game on PC. The closest thing I had played to even a competitive video game was Call of Duty, and that, let's be honest, that's not really a competitive video game. That's a shoot 'em up. So, not much experience with competitive video games or with using the PC to game. I originally came from, like most kids, like playing baseball and other team games like that. But when I got into League in, the end of Season 2 and the beginning of Season 3, I fell in love because it's like, this is the team competitive environment that I was looking for, with like baseball or soccer or other sports, except I can queue up all the time and play this. So I don't have to have 20 people ready to play in order to be able to play a game. My practice isn't just, practicing boring drills. It's actually just playing the game. And at the end of the day, it's a video game. It's fun, and so I fell in love with League. And I knew pretty early on that I wanted to be really good at this game and that I enjoyed it a lot. And so my friends and I were just kind of casually playing League after school. Believe it or not, I'm one of the older League players now, which is crazy to think about. But I started playing this game when I was at the end of middle school, and when we got into, so I was playing it after school every day with this group of friends. But once we got level 30, people started playing their ranked placement games and we stopped playing with each other as much because everyone kind of, went into solo queue. But people burnt out of the game pretty quickly once we actually got placed in ranked. And I don't know exactly why, but I would definitely say that like starting high school and people just going on different paths and different journeys, not wanting to be the kid that plays video games all the time and wanting to do other things, which is totally fine. I was still friends with all of them, but just wanted to do different things with their time, which is totally okay. One of my friends got placed into Bronze 4. He was pretty upset because he got placed into Bronze 4, didn't really want to continue, given that he had been placed in the lowest rank in the game and wasn't having a lot of success climbing out right away. One of my friends was, who had introduced us to the game, the Korean friend, had been playing the game for a while, kind of keeping it on the down low from us so we couldn't catch up to him or something. And he was, I think, all the way in plat at the time in Season 3. So he was the best one, and he was teaching us, but he was teaching us wrong and just trolling us, telling us to build 4 Doran shields at the start of the game and stuff like that when the passives didn't stack, and you were allowed to build them even though they didn't work with each other. So he was trolling us. One of my friends who played AD carry was probably the best out of all of us for having first started to play the game, and I think he placed into Silver 3, and he duoed with another one of my friends, and this guy got placed in Silver 4 because he duoed with this guy the whole time, but he was not good, and he did not necessarily deserve to place into Silver, when the rest of us were the bottom of the barrel when it came to Bronze. And so he placed into Silver, and then because he had placed into Silver, they stopped duoing, and then he went something like 1-17 in his next 18 ranked games, and basically just quit the game because that was such a miserable 20 game run or whatever that he just couldn't keep playing the game anymore. And can you really blame him? And that's why it's so important, of course, that placements, which is still a problem to this day, are accurate, because you'll have somebody who really enjoys the game, who loves playing it with their friends and stuff like that, and then you get into solo queue and you get a bad placement like that, and it's just a miserable experience. So that's where we got placed. I got placed along with another friend in Bronze 3, so I started out almost at the lowest rank in the game, and it was not easy to climb out of Bronze, having never played a competitive video game before, having never played a PC game before or a MOBA before. Again, I didn't know how anything worked. I didn't understand even the basic parameters, and I was younger too. I was just like 14, 15. I didn't even understand how they might have designed the game. So I thought that maybe if I right clicked faster on the tower, I could hit the tower more, that your attack speed was determined by how fast you were clicking, which may have helped to get my my clicks up a little bit, but definitely did not help me do any more damage to the tower. So I was completely lost as a player. So went into high school, and like I said, a lot of friends started, doing other things. I was introduced by that AD carry friend who was in Silver to another Korean student who was at a different high school that he had ended up going to. And this guy, Sean, and I became really good friends, and my first long-term duo partner. And we wanted to get into this Korean group that his friends and some people he knew were in. It was a Korean gaming clan in NA on TeamSpeak called TSP, which I guess is teaspoon, we joke about now, but they didn't realize that. So TSP was this Korean gaming clan back in the day. And we really wanted to get in, but you had to be at least gold to get into this group. So he was gold and I was silver, and he helped me grind to gold over the next year. And we got on, and we didn't do our homework, and we played League every day after school for a year or two. We ended up getting into this group, and this group was great for my mentality when it came to playing the game, because they were no nonsense, flame the hell out of each other, tell it like it is, no sugarcoating, just harsh reality setting in that you're not good at the game, and you're not blaming your teammates. You're just recognizing what mistakes are being made in the game and getting better. And there were some really good players in that group who were much higher ranked than we were, and we learned a lot about the game. And that was a very formative experience, because a lot of my other friends that I had started playing the game with, quit the game because they got frustrated over their ranked placement or over 20 games that they had played and not been able to do as well as they wanted to. And instead of improving, they blamed their teammates and they quit. And for me, I really liked the competitive nature of it. I liked the improvement aspect of it. And so I ended up, playing with Sean, and we duoed, to get to gold that year. And then, so that was in season 3, I went from bronze to silver. Season 4, I went from silver to gold with him. Season 5, we played together again, and I went from gold to platinum for the first time. And then one day out of the blue, Sean was gone. Just last online 8 years ago, never came on ever again. And from what I heard, he had been caught smoking a little bit of marijuana, okay? And his host family had told his parents about it, and he was sent back to Korea without so much as a goodbye. Never heard from him ever again after spending 2 years playing every day after school together. It was absolutely heartbreaking. So Sean was gone. And it was at this time, I'll tell you one more story about Sean. He was in his promos to Diamond for the first time. And he didn't want to play with me. I was a rank below him, whatever. He wanted to play it and prove that he could get there by himself first off, even though I was lower than him. And he didn't want me to mess up and lose him his Diamond promos. So Sean goes 0-2 in his first 2 out of 5 games in his Diamond promos. And he's like, okay, Ben, we might as well play together. I'm probably losing my promos. It is what it is. Let's just keep on the grind. And I lock in and we win the next, even though I think it meant we couldn't duo anymore for the time being or something like that. I lock in and we win the next 3 games in a row. We run it back and we win him his first Diamond promos and he gets into Diamond. Just absolutely, like, if you're a support player, you have to understand that, like, helping a guy get to Diamond after he's down 0-2 like that is like an amazing feeling. Like, that's exactly what you want to do for like somebody you've been duoing with for so long. But Sean just gone, absolutely heartbreaking. And then but I was still in TSP, this Korean gaming clan, and they had a high-ranked player who was in like D1, like a D1 80 carry player. And he had a ranked 5s team. So back in the day, instead of flex, you had ranked 5s. And ranked 5s was awesome. I'll probably make a whole video on why they should bring ranked 5s back instead of this garbage flex queue. Instead of having a flex rank that each individual player has, you'd make a team and your team would have a rank. And you could have 6 or 7 people. So if you had more than 5 friends and you were rotating in and out, it was basically a continuation of the normal games that I had been playing with that original group of 5 friends. It's like you could put a team together and you could all still play together, but it was ranked. And the great thing about the LCS was at the time is that actually if you got to, like, they would take the top 20 teams out of the ranked 5s team ladder, and those 20 teams would be invited to participate in a tournament. And the top couple of teams from those from that tournament or from those teams got to participate in the Challenger Series. And if you did well enough in the Challenger Series, you could play in the promotion relegation matches in the LCS, and you could just promote a team into the LCS from 5 friends playing ranked 5s on not a solo queue ladder, right, but basically a teams ladder. That was such a great system, and it's so sad to see that go. So I had started working with this team, not really working, but I talked to them, this 80 carry, and I was like, do you guys have anybody, like a coach, an analyst, anybody like helping you guys improve, giving you notes or anything like that? He said, no, like, we're just a group of friends playing rank 5s. We don't have anybody. Their team was in Diamond 1 at the time, but they had a lot of good players. And I said, listen, I'll like spectate your guys' games. I think like your team's really, really cool, really high rank. I want to see what you guys are doing anyways. Like, let me just watch your games and send you some notes. I'll shoot you some notes. And, if they're helpful to you guys, then great. If they're not, you can tell me to like not bother or whatever. And so I sent them a bunch of notes and essentially just started being an analyst for this team or whatever, and sent them a bunch of notes. And then I told them that, hey, they can participate in this tournament to try to get into the Challenger Series if they want to. And they said like the most amazing thing ever, which is crazy. Their team was Diamond 1, right, on the ranked 5s ladder. They actually climbed, while I was giving them notes like this, all the way to the rank 2 team on the North American 5v5 teams ladder with essentially no staff other than me doing this thing. And I was telling them, like, you guys are really good. You can participate in this tournament and get in the Challenger Series. And they said, like, the most Giga Chad thing ever. They were like, yeah, we're just a group of friends playing for fun. We don't really want to play in, like, the Challenger Series or try to make the LCS or anything like that. We just don't care. We're group of Korean friends playing for fun on NA. And, ranked 2 teams said this, by the way. So they just ignored the invitation from Riot to play in the tournament. But I was, at this point, I was hooked on the whole idea. So, I ended up looking into some other teams, and I found, Team Zenith Esports, which was an amateur Challenger Series team at the time. And I asked them, like, do you guys need an analyst or something? And they said, sure. And at the time, they were a much more serious team. The owner had a house in California or Texas or something like that, where 2 of the players lived. And they ended up, those 2 players were living there with the owner of the team. We found 3 other players. This was Virus and Chump John, a top laner and 80 carry player. And apparently they had been playing on Zenith for a long time, trying to go pro. And this was kind of like their last hurrah. This was like their last shot before they needed to kind of move on with their lives. And so it was really serious, because if we lost, it was going to be doomed. We managed to get 3 other players together, and this was like, and find a coach, and this was like 2 weeks before the thing started. Barely had any time to scrim and practice, managed to get the team to, play enough and win enough ranked 5s games, ranked 5v5 games, whatever, to get in the top 20 teams and qualify for the tournament. And then we got unluckily matched against Team Liquid Academy in the first game of the tournament, or the first match of the tournament. And this was when Team Liquid and other teams were trying to essentially farm Challenger Series spots in order to get LCS spots and sell them. And so we did not stand a chance, and we lost in quick fashion. Okay. But that was a cool experience to do that. And then I, started focusing again on, climbing myself, and ended up hitting Diamond myself for the first time around then when I was like a junior in high school. And I was thinking to myself, like, I've gone up a rank every single season. I've gone up 1 rank consistently since I started playing the game. I know it's supposed to be harder to get from Diamond to Masters, but at the rate that I've been going at, if, my junior year to my senior year, if I can finish my senior year in Masters or something like that, maybe I can, stall going to college and consider like playing League, because I really wanted to play League at a high level or work for a team or something like that. So I decided that we'd try to do that. And things did not go as planned. A lot of things were against me at the time, unfortunately. I had to start focusing on school to make sure I actually graduated. Season 7, when I decided to take this gap year and try to play League, was Ardent Sensor meta, which for me as a tank support player was a killer, because I spent way too many games playing Braum before I gave up and realized that I needed to be playing the Ardent Sensor champions. And a lot of that time that year was me spent learning how to play enchanters, and it was probably very helpful, to expand my champion pool and expand what I was good at as a player, because I played like 1,000 enchanter games or something like that season, and I won 60% of my Janna games on 300 games played, but it wasn't enough to even climb to Masters, either through poor champion pool discipline or, the meta being like that and focusing on school to pass and all these things. It just ended up being a disaster. The other thing that happened is the server moved from, I was in Seattle at the time, as we talked about ping, the server moved from California to Chicago, and my ping went from 20 to 60. And so that was a huge hit to me while I was literally trying to, improve my game at the highest level and potentially try to go pro. Huge hit, but the good news is that on a personal level, while it was a disaster, and I probably should not have tried to be going pro at League when I was a D4 player, and I would not recommend that anyone ever tries to do that. It's utterly stupid. Now, At the time, I don't think Grandmaster existed. There was, less of a gap, I suppose, between Diamond and these other ones. And I wasn't like, well, I spent most of my time in D4, but I had hit like D3 and stuff like that. Not that that matters. I mean, if you're a D4 player, even a D4 hardstuck player is going to fluke into D3 if they're playing enough games. So, yeah, I definitely, went for that at too low of a rank. Let's just put it that way. So I wouldn't recommend that. But the good news is that I went from someone who is really not focused on school and not wanting anything to do with school and just wanting to play League to when I started community college after that year, I really, really was focused on what I was doing with school. And that was huge because I went in knowing exactly what I wanted to study and putting in the same effort into school, into college, as I had been putting into League. And nobody was doing that. None of the other students around me were doing that. None of them, their main goal wasn't to do something with college or to do really well in college. They're, just there because it's the next step after high school or because their parents want them to be or whatever. And so I went into college with a huge advantage. So I ended up getting a 4.0, for over a year, getting into student government and stuff like that and all kinds of other things that I hadn't done before. I nearly quit League. I played 80 games of League for one season. Ended up transferring to a college in the Midwest, getting a girlfriend who moved out to the Midwest with me, who's now my wife. And, even though it was probably a waste of time to spend a year playing video games as a D4 player, the time spent doing that and the break from school really did help fix my mentality towards school and everything. And I basically just figured that, I did a lot of self-introspection because it was a very depressing time, to be honest, with, realizing that this was a dream of mine that I had been working on for years, but it wasn't like very realistic and it's something that's really hard to do. And I guess what I ended up realizing was like, hey, wait a minute, maybe it's too hard to do this League thing. Maybe this is like being a rock star or something like that. But like if I put in the same effort into college as I put into League, then I'm going to be successful, at doing that. So, that's what I realized and college was going well, but then COVID happened, and I started kind of getting back into League. I was like, you know what? I'm not going to do graduate school, probably. It's not going to matter what my GPA is for my job when I apply for a job. I already got a pretty decent GPA, and when I transferred, it was like, oh, now I have to take all these other classes. They thought I wouldn't even be able to graduate. I was told I wouldn't be able to graduate in 2 years because it was just, with all the classes that I needed that I hadn't known to take at community college. It's a whole screwed up system. I don't really want to get too into it, but when you transfer colleges, it just sucks. If you want to go to like the University of Washington and you're studying economics at a community college, there's certain prerequisites and certain general requirements that they would have at the University of Washington. The University of Michigan, completely different requirements. So like University of Michigan had a language requirement for economics. University of Washington didn't. So when I got to the University of Michigan, I didn't even know this when I chose what school to commit to. Turns out that now I have to take like an extra 3 or 4 language classes in order to get 2 years of college language. Taking language in high school didn't count, and I was 3.5 years removed now with the gap year in community college, and not taking my last semester of high school either. I was now 3.5 years removed from having studied a language at all, which I was terrible at to begin with. And so I barely managed to finish in 2 years. I did graduate in only 2 years once I transferred, but only because I just took a bunch of extra classes. It got to the point where it was like, I'm not really going to be able to maintain a 4.0 anymore anyways, and COVID happened, and it's not really going to matter what my GPA was for my job at the end of the day, and I've already got a pretty decent GPA for my first 2 years, so it's like, maybe we just play a little bit of League, great ping, see how it goes. And actually, it was going really terribly. And I remember hitting a really low moment when I was stuck in Platinum 4, um, after having demoted again from Diamond 4 all the way down to Platinum 4, which is a really rough slide. It's like when you demoted from Diamond 4, you had to have really low MMR. It's essentially the equivalent of like losing 20 games at D4 0 LP to demote. And so when you demoted eventually, your MMR was so shot on the account that you were bound to demote to Platinum 4 basically almost every time. And so it was really rough. And so I'd have to play like 100, 200 games every time I demoted from Diamond 4 just to recover. And I didn't really get into that, but yeah, I ended up demoting, just at this period of time, but even during the gap year, demoting from Diamond 4 to Platinum something like 7 times in 1 year, that year, and probably 10 times or so over the course of my time playing League. And it was just, I was never someone who was into switching accounts or smurfing. It just wasn't something I liked doing or ever resorted to doing. And so I was just stuck playing so many games on my main account, being stuck. And I remember, getting to this low point where I had demoted all the way to Platinum 4 again. And this was later on in college. And I was just like, I can't be this bad after all these games I put in, after how much I cared and tried, and working with these teams and stuff like that. There's just no way. And so what I ended up doing is I just buckled down and tried to get better. And I figured a few things out that really worked. And it was like that ability usage stuff. Really, I was watching Tyler 1 and I was asking myself, like, this guy's missing as much CS as anybody in Diamond. He's missing abilities just as much as I am. I used to think that like the only thing that I'm doing wrong is like, obviously sometimes I'm missing my abilities, but I'm only human, and so the only thing that I could really think of was like, maybe I'm not hitting enough abilities. But it turned out it wasn't hitting more abilities, because you can only hit certain percentage, especially as you get higher up and people get good at dodging. You're just only going to be able to hit so many percentage of abilities. It was the way I was using them, the timing and stuff like that really hurt. And so the next thing I know, over about a 2-month span, I went all the way from hard stuck in Plat 4 all the way to Masters for the first time, kind of completely out of nowhere. And it was really that ability usage and the ping that helped me do that. And another thing I forgot to say about Zenith was, one of the really cool things there was one of the players that we worked with on the second roster I was working with was actually Contracts, was our jungler for one of the 2 teams that I was an analyst for, was Zenith. It was like his first amateur team that he was on. And so I like VOD reviewed for Contracts and stuff like that. This was back when people used Skype, if you can believe that. I know I'm old. And so I had, Contracts, Juan Garcia as a friend on Skype, but then everyone switched to Discord, so I don't have him as a friend anymore. It's terrible, I know. And then obviously he went on to do great things in the LCS and at Worlds for Cloud9 and stuff like that, and NRG. It's been great. So that was really cool, running. And so anyways, I improved all of a sudden, and I hit Masters. And I've been busy with life, obviously, with graduating college, and now I have a kid on the way, and starting a business and things like that. But the thing is that despite all of that, I've still been improving since then. And this is kind of like, in my opinion, I had that initial arc where I was improving, just learning the game really from playing, when I was from bronze to high platinum to low diamond. And then from low diamond, and high plat, I was stuck there for years. And then I have had this improvement arc recently over the last 2 or 3 years or so, where I really improved and, went from high plat and low diamond all the way up to Masters. And then recently, I don't even remember when, maybe a year ago now, I first hit GM, and then maybe less than a year ago, and then I hit it again last split. And so I've made significant progress. I think I peaked somewhere at like 600 LP. It was crazy. I was like 5 games off of Challenger near the end of last split. If I had won 5 games in a row at that point, I would have locked challenger for the end of last split. So, absolutely crazy journey. And now I'm going to have a kid, which is nuts. So I'm looking forward to the rest of the journey, the end of the journey. I want to hit challenger really bad, but I don't have much time left. Hopefully in the 2 months left before my son is born, I will hit challenger, but we'll see. So what I want to do with the YouTube channel is I've really enjoyed, making these like getting better at League videos. And of course I'll continue those and still have plenty of things to talk about, but I want to start making some videos that allow me to make videos where I'm mostly just playing the game. And one of the things that I can do with that is I'm going to make a Road to Challenger series. And what that's going to do is allow me to spend the same time that I'm working on YouTube videos are going to be like me playing the game and getting to VOD review, or at least watch back my games. And so hopefully that'll be interesting to people, and it's going to be different, right? Like obviously G-Bay did a Road to Diamond series many years ago, and I love G-Bay and it was big inspiration, but he stopped at Diamond. He never went past that and had a wrist injury and stopped playing the game for a long time. So this is going to be kind of different, because this is going to be that climbing series where you're not watching somebody who's a challenger player smurfing all the way up to challenger or anything like that. You're going to be watching someone who's like a master GM player figuring out how to improve from being a master GM player to like getting to challenger for the first time. And so that's going to be quite interesting. And hopefully everyone will enjoy it. And I hope this gives you guys some background on me and how I ended up getting here and getting GM in the first place. We're going to be starting right now. I'm around Masters 150 LP. And of course, like I said, I peaked around, 600 LP or so towards the end of last split. So hopefully we can start by just kind of easily climbing our way back there. I've had a very good split so far. Unfortunately, dodging is a huge part of course, climbing to challenger. And I don't really know how that fits into the whole video series, but we'll see. So, yesterday I got to play one solo queue game, and then I dodged 3 times in a row. And so I went 1-0 for minus 20 LP yesterday. So that's kind of an interesting one. And tonight it's, I had a busy day and it's too late for me to really play at all. But hope this gives you guys some background and some context, on me, and let me know what you think about me doing a series like that, and any suggestions. Of course, if you guys have any videos that you'd like to see me make other than that, you guys can leave comments. I've made a lot of videos based on, comments people have made or replies I've made to things people have said. It's like, how I am. I'm a yapper, which is why YouTube is good for me. And if I end up leaving a paragraph or a book potentially as a comment, or reply to somebody, I might as well turn it into a video. So every time you guys comment, even if you completely disagree with me, it just, makes me think about the game more and gives me some video ideas. So hope you guys enjoyed. Good luck in solo queue and have a wonderful day. Peace out. Bye.